Hi, welcome to African Perspective. My name is Nelda, and I make videos about all things Africa from Mondays to Fridays. Today, we're going to be talking about a travel ban that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has issued for multiple countries around the world. So, 17 different countries have been banned, but 10 out of those 17 countries are African countries. So, Africa is the continent that is primarily affected by this ban. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about why these bans were issued in the first place, the implications of those bans on Africa, as well as other continents, really. And the third thing that we're going to be talking about is how can Africa respond? If that sounds interesting, feel free to subscribe, to like, to share, and to comment. The first thing that I asked myself when I saw the list of the countries that had been banned by Trump was, what exactly was going on behind his mind? So, how did he get to this conclusion? But before we even get to that part, we're going to look at the countries that have been banned. And there are two kinds of bans that he has issued. The first one is a full ban, which means there are no new visas that are going to be issued, and they're not allowed, people from these countries are not allowed to travel into the United States. And then there is a partial ban that just means you're under watch. So, like, they're watching you, but they haven't fully banned everything, and some visas may go through, but they're going to have a higher level of scrutiny when they're trying to look at your visa applications. So the 10 countries that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has banned are Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. These countries face a full ban. And then there are three more countries that face partial bans. So that is Burundi, Sierra Leone, and Togo. So the question is, why were these 10 African countries selected for either the full ban or the partial ban? The very first reason is identity management systems that are outdated. So recently, there has been an update in the passport management world. I noticed this because I had to change my passport in 2018, I think, and we had to move from just a simple paper passports that had nothing in them to the passports with a chip inside it. And that means when you're going into a new country, they can scan your fingerprints, and that would match with what was approved in your home country when you're applying for the new passport, for example. And so these new passports with the biometric information, multiple countries are allowed to share that information across the immigration world, which means even if I, for example, travel to the United States and, I don't know, commit murder, and hopefully I never do, but if I do, and my fingerprints are on the scene, then they will be able to have those details in their database as well, because countries can now share biometric information with each other. But some countries in Africa, countries like Chad, for example, countries like Equatorial Guinea, countries like the Republic of the Congo, are still updating these systems. And even if they have updated some passports, for example, some of them struggle with sharing this data with the United States. So to protect themselves, because the United States is a superpower, they have faced terrorist attacks like 9/11, and so they're a little bit more concerned, because they're like, if somebody's coming into a country, we have to make sure that they're properly vetted, that these people are cleared fully for security, and that if they end up committing any crimes, if they're coming to the country and they want to hide and overstay their visas, we can find them and we can send them back home. Speaking of which, the other reason that these countries are being banned is because some of them are refusing their deportees. So they're actively refusing to cooperate with the United States security protocols, which means the United States cannot trust them. So if people are coming from your country and they're overstaying in the United States, and we're sending them back to you to be like, hey, these people broke the law in our country, and instead of jailing them in our country or bringing them to you, you guys deal with them. And then those African countries are rejecting their own people. So the United States is like, hey, you're not going to cooperate. So what we're going to do is we're just not going to let people from your country come in altogether. So this is just the other qualm that I have personally. It's that when, and I say this because I study psychology as well, people don't really care about the individual per se. People work on stereotypes. So when Africans are leaving their home countries, and I'm speaking here to Africans, by the way, if you're an African and you're leaving your home country to go to some place abroad, whether you like it or not, your actions are actively going to affect other Africans. And I know that feels like a huge burden to carry, but they are going to affect how other people perceive Africans overall. So if you are from, I'm just going to throw Tanzania in the bus because I'm Tanzanian and people are not going to scream in the comments against me. So if I'm Tanzanian and I go to the United Kingdom, for example, and I choose to overstay my visa, that impacts the likelihood that as Tanzanians also want to come to the US, it will affect their likelihood of their visas being approved, which is why countries like Nigeria, for example, countries like Ghana, they struggle with getting their visa applications through because number one, a lot of people from those countries are applying, but number two, some people from those countries went into the United States, went in the United Kingdom, and overstayed their visas, or they did something to piss off the immigration system. So this is something we need to remember. It's that we don't have the privilege of just acting anyhow. We are going to be associated with the actions of other Africans, and our actions are also going to affect how people view other Africans as well. So that's number one, identity mismanagement. These countries don't have nice systems to be able to vet people and to also share that data. And number two, they're not really cooperating with the United States. Speaking of which, as well, part of cooperating with the United States is being able to talk to them about terrorism going on in your home country and telling them how exactly it is that you're coming up with counterterrorism plans. So countries like Somalia, for example, countries like Sudan, countries like Libya. Libya has been affiliated with ISIS, affiliated with Al Qaeda. Somalia has been affiliated with Al Shabaab. Sudan is still struggling with conflict within its own country. And so the United States is like, if you people are harboring terrorists or you are sponsoring terrorists, I know Sudan, for example, has gotten in trouble for actively sponsoring terrorist activities. If your countries are getting in trouble for engaging in terrorist activities, why should we let people from your country come into our country? What if one of the people that we're letting in from your country is a terrorist? So this is a genuine concern from the United States. And so how is this going to affect Africa? It's affecting Africa in many ways, but before we get to that part, I just want to cover what Africa can do first, because I think the solutions are very evident in the sense that number one, how about we update our identity management systems? It's 2025. 2025. People have biometric chips in their passport. That should be, now I'm feeling hungry because I said chips. But we should keep up with the times. And to me this is so frustrating because I say this almost in every video. People are talking about biometric chips and we are still talking about paper passports. It's a very okay, it's not a very simple technology, but it's something that we should keep up with, because if a state is failing, it's not only affecting the activities in that state, it's affecting international activities as well. So because a government is not keeping up with the times, it's affecting the global connectivity, the access that its own people can have. And so this is something that African countries need to start being aware of, because now it's just 10 countries being banned, but 10 out of 54, that is very close to 20%. So a fifth of African countries have been banned from entering the United States. Can you imagine? That is so sad. That is so sad because there's amazing talent in this continent. And sure, I know a lot of people complain about brain drain, and I'm going to talk about this later. That people are leaving the continent. Sure, we can talk about that in another context, but it is mostly good for people to leave the country and pursue better opportunities and then feed that back into the country. Because now one of the ways this travel ban is going to affect the continent is that it is going to, one, reduce global connectivity. It's already straining US Africa relations, and sure, the AU could intervene, so the African Union could intervene, but what can they do? The most that they can do, which is also one of the ways they could respond, is being like, okay, if you're banning our citizens from getting into your country, we're going to ban your citizens to get into our country. But realistically speaking, what American, not even just an American, but who would want to go to a country that is still ridden with civil conflict? Who? This is why we need to take care of our countries. It's becoming very embarrassing, guys. It's becoming very embarrassing that we're still fighting. Like a country like Sudan, for example, has been okay. Sudan, I feel like I'm picking on Sudan now. I'm just gonna leave Sudan alone. But let's go to Libya, for example. Still a very fragmented government. Now you could argue the United States interfered, the United States did that, sure. However, let's pick ourselves up. Let's pick ourselves up, because now it's affecting not just people within the country, but it's going to affect how people view us as a continent. 10 out of 17 countries that have been banned are from Africa. It's the majority, more than half. The other 7 countries are mixed between Asia and Asia and South America. So the fact that we're the majority with more than half of the set, that is kind of embarrassing. It's like, oh my God, what's going on in Africa? Like, what's going on there that they're getting the majority of the ban? So this is something that we need to pick up after ourselves and care about, because people are being affected and it's a real consequence that people are experiencing. Beyond that, there is also humanitarian concerns. And I'm just going to pull up my notes here because I don't want to forget anything. But if you think about refugees, for example, if somebody is running away from Somalia because of the conflicts going on in the country, Eritrea is a neighboring country, but Eritrea is not their next best bet, because in Eritrea there's an authoritarian government there. So you're running away from Somalia, but you're getting into Eritrea. You're not going for a better life. If you're running away from that and you're going to Ethiopia, for example, there are some parts in Ethiopia where there have been records of conflict going on. Still, there is civil conflict, so it's nothing really better. So for some people, leaving a country like Somalia would mean for them to leave that entire region and go elsewhere. But now these refugees who are vulnerable, who need to be able to leave that entire region, not just the country, they now don't have access to a country like the United States, which is better in terms of peace. The United States is not perfect, but guys, compared to most African countries, might as well go to the US. So that access has now been blocked for them. Can you imagine? So that's one part of it. But on the other hand as well, the way I'm thinking about it is that is not going to affect refugees not being able to go to the US alone, but it's also going to affect other African countries from receiving refugees from these countries that have been banned. Because it's like, if the United States, which is a big country with its big money and big resources and everything is massive and plenty and nice, if that country is rejecting you, what does a country like, I don't know, Botswana, how can Botswana help you? A tiny country with 3 million people. How can Cape Verde with 600,000 people help you? So this is going to affect real people. It's going to cause humanitarian concerns. There are people who are going to lose their lives. The safe routes that these people had to better countries are now closed because we were unable to just take care of very simple things. Make sure that we have updated identity management systems. Make sure that we are cooperating with international communities in reporting terrorism and coming up with counterterrorism plans. These are very simple things. And so I know in some sense I'm saying they're simple. Of course, they're complex. There is a lot of complexity behind policy making. But this is why we elect leaders. This is why we pick representatives to go ahead and be like, okay, as a country, we are unable to sit down and have 6 million people decide. So we're going to pick a few people in the government and they're going to do the work for us. They're going to be our representatives. But our representatives are failing us. So I want to say that's a majority of what I wanted to talk about today. So 10 African countries have been banned, and it's not the first time that it's not the first time that African countries have been banned from the United States. And to me, it's just sad that we're getting the majority of the ban, and we're facing the greatest hit. And I haven't even seen the AU, because I haven't seen the AU speak up as much as I would like it to speak up, because they could also be part of the negotiation for these countries to be like, hey, we're working with these countries to make sure that they're keeping up with the requests that you made, but they're not really doing that. So to me, it's just like, again, the African common person is the one that's being affected. The leaders can move around, live in peace, and they don't have to worry. But the everyday person, the refugees, the mothers and the children who are struggling on the daily, they want to leave their home countries, they can't do that anymore. That access is blocked. And who's to say that? What if other countries decide that they're also going to follow in the footsteps of the United States and to ban these countries as well? We will never know. But unfortunately, that is the news that I have for you today. And I hope it was helpful just to explain what is going on, why Trump decided to ban these countries. And I hope this video is helpful to you. If you have any questions, any feedback, any comments, feel free to just leave them in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.